While the news cycle is busy celebrating states that are slashing property taxes, a silent financial epidemic is spreading across America. 7 specific states are currently pulling off the ultimate magic trick, aggressively raising your property tax burden while politicians look you in the eye and claim rates are staying flat. It is a stealth assault on your bank account that bypasses the ballot box and shows up directly in your mailbox as a bill you cannot afford to ignore. You have seen the headlines about Texas cutting rates or North Dakota trying to abolish property taxes entirely, but that is a smoke screen. In the shadows, assessors and county commissioners in 7 other states have discovered loopholes, expiration clauses, and valuation tricks to squeeze thousands more out of you without ever holding a vote. By the time you realize what has happened, the appeal window has closed and your monthly escrow payment has skyrocketed. Welcome back to Tax Hack Pro. We are the only channel digging through the municipal fine print to uncover the financial traps set by local governments. So if you value keeping your hard-earned money, make sure you subscribe right now. Today, we are exposing the 7 states that are quietly driving property taxes through the roof in 2026, using methods so subtle they feel like a crime. We are counting down from number 7 to the number 1 worst offender, a state where the property tax system has weaponized insurance failures and hidden fees against homeowners. Let us pull back the curtain on the tax hikes they do not want you to see. Number 7 is Montana, and we call this the reassessment shock. When you think of Montana, you think of wide-open spaces, Yellowstone-style ranches, and a low cost of living. That image has drawn wealthy buyers from California and Washington in droves, driving up market prices. But for the average homeowner who has lived there for 20 years, this real estate boom has morphed into a tax nightmare. Montana utilizes a periodic reassessment cycle, and the most recent numbers are nothing short of catastrophic for longtime residents. We are seeing assessed values in desirable towns like Bozeman, Missoula, and Kalispell jump by 30, 40, or even 50% in a single cycle. Here is the trick the state uses to avoid blame. The local governments claim they're not raising the millage rate, which is the tax rate applied to your home's value. They tell you the rate is flat. However, when the value of the asset they are taxing doubles, a flat rate means your bill doubles. It is simple math that devastates household budgets. They did not technically vote to raise your taxes. They just administratively decided your house is now a gold mine. The result is that retirees on fixed incomes are being forced to sell because they cannot pay the carrying costs of homes they own free and clear. Why is this flying under the radar? Because reassessments are viewed as administrative updates, not political decisions. There is no press conference announcing a tax hike. There is just a letter in the mail telling you your house is worth a fortune. But unless you sell, that paper wealth is meaningless, yet you are taxed on it as if it were cash in the bank. Appeals are flooding in, but counties are denying them at record rates because they have become addicted to this new revenue stream to fund infrastructure. Montana is proving that you do not need to raise tax rates to bleed homeowners dry. You just need to inflate the balloon. Number 6 is Nevada, where we are seeing the danger of expiring protections. Nevada has long pitched itself as a tax haven, a place with no state income tax and reasonable property costs. For years, homeowners were shielded by tax abatements, caps that legally limited how much a property tax bill could rise in a single year. It felt safe. It felt predictable. But what most residents did not read was the fine print regarding the sunset clauses attached to these legislative protections. Right now, we are witnessing a quiet expiration of these caps in various jurisdictions, and the result is a slow-motion collision for taxpayers. It is not a sudden explosion like Montana. It is more insidious. It is the death of your budget by 1,000 cuts. As these caps dissolve or reset based on complex formulas involving the Consumer Price Index, homeowners are suddenly exposed to the full weight of market appreciation. But Nevada has another trick up its sleeve that pushes it to number 6 on our list. It is the proliferation of administrative fees. Look closely at a property tax statement from Clark County or Washoe County. You will see the base tax, which might look stable, but look below that line. You will see charges for libraries, police services, water management, and administrative processing. These are technically fees, not taxes, which allows local governments to bypass voter approval requirements for tax hikes. They just add a fee for a service that used to be covered by the general fund. It is a shell game. You're paying for the same police officer and the same pothole repair, but now it is a separate line item that grows every year. If you are a renter, do not think you are immune. Landlords in Nevada pass every single cent of these increases down to tenants. This is why rent is rising even in older buildings. Nevada is letting your protections expire while inventing new fees to take their place. If you want to know which states are actually safe for your wealth and which ones are setting traps, you need to be part of our community. Hit that subscribe button for Tax Hack Pro. We track tax legislation in all 50 states so you don't have to. Number 5 is Georgia, where the exemption system has been overwhelmed by inflation. Georgia is a state that prides itself on being retiree-friendly. You will hear politicians brag about the generous school tax exemptions for seniors over 65. In some counties, if you are over a certain age, you do not pay the school portion of the property tax, which can be significant. That sounds fantastic on paper. The reality, however, is a math problem that is crushing homeowners. Home values in the Atlanta metro area and its sprawling suburbs have surged at an unprecedented rate. The exemptions that Georgia offers are typically fixed dollar amounts or percentage-based breaks applied to a base value. When home assessments rise by 40%, a fixed exemption becomes mathematically irrelevant. Let me break this down for you. If your home value jumps by $100,000 and your exemption saves you $2,000, you are still facing a massive net increase in your tax bill. The exemption is a shield that is too small to block the sword of rising assessments. The county sends you a letter highlighting your exemption to make you feel good, while the bottom line of the bill demands thousands more than you paid last year. Furthermore, this hits younger families and new transplants the hardest. If you are a 30-year-old moving to Georgia for a tech job, you get almost no protection. You are walking into a buzzsaw of reassessments with zero shielding. The New South economy has brought jobs, but it has also brought a tax burden that local wages are struggling to match. Georgia homeowners are finding out that an exemption is only as good as the assessment it is fighting against, and right now, the assessments are winning. Number 4 is North Carolina, suffering from the growth penalty. North Carolina is the darling of the economic world right now. Charlotte is the second largest banking center in the United States. Raleigh-Durham is a massive tech and biotech hub. Asheville is a haven for remote workers. People are moving here for jobs, mild weather, and what they believe is a low cost of living. But there is a catch that real estate agents rarely mention. North Carolina has very few structural protections against property tax increases. Unlike California with Prop 13 or Florida with Save Our Homes, North Carolina assessments are largely uncapped and reset frequently to match market value. When you have a state that is growing this fast, the demand for infrastructure is insatiable. Every new family moving to Wake County or Mecklenburg County needs schools for their kids, roads to drive on, and police protection. That infrastructure costs billions. Who pays for it? Property owners. The state has aggressively cut corporate income taxes to attract businesses, which shifts the burden of funding local services onto residential property taxes. It is a classic tax shift. Businesses get the brakes to move in, and homeowners pick up the tab for the services those businesses require. We are seeing reassessment notices in North Carolina that leave homeowners speechless. Values are catching up to the explosive market data of the last 3 years. If you bought a home in Charlotte 4 years ago, your tax bill today bears no resemblance to what it was then. There is no cap to save you. There is just the raw math of a booming market extracting revenue from your equity. North Carolina is proving that rapid growth comes with a hefty price tag, and that price tag is attached to your deed. Number 3 is Tennessee, the state of the backfill burden. Tennessee is famous for one thing in the financial world: no state income tax. It is the primary reason people relocate to Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. They want to keep their whole paycheck. It is a compelling sales pitch. But here is the lesson that every Tax Hack Pro subscriber needs to internalize: the government always gets its money. If they do not take it from your paycheck, they must take it from somewhere else. In Tennessee, that somewhere else is a combination of the country's highest sales taxes and an increasingly aggressive property tax system. Because there is no state income tax to fund local governments, cities and counties in Tennessee are entirely dependent on property taxes and sales taxes to keep the lights on. The state government provides limited funding for local education and services, leaving counties to fend for themselves. This forces local assessors to be ruthless. In the Nashville metro area, we are seeing a rate creep. While the state ignores income tax, local jurisdictions are quietly raising millage rates or aggressively reassessing properties to fill the budget gaps. It is a regressive system. A wealthy earner pays zero income tax, while a retiree with a modest home but limited income gets hammered by rising property taxes because that is the only lever the local government can pull. The savings you get from having no income tax are often eaten up by the property tax bill, especially if you own a home that has appreciated in value. You are essentially trading one tax for another, but the property tax is inescapable. You pay it even if you lose your job. You pay it even when you retire. Tennessee's low tax reputation is a half-truth that hides a rising property tax reality. Number 2 is Arizona, the land of the special district explosion. If you buy a home in Arizona, especially in the new developments sprawling out from Phoenix and Tucson, you need to sit down and read your title report very carefully. You are likely walking into a minefield of special taxing districts. Arizona has mastered the art of hiding taxes by giving them different names. When you look at your tax bill, the actual property tax line might look reasonable. But keep reading down the page. You will see lines for community facilities districts, fire districts, flood control districts, library districts, street lighting districts, and vector control districts. The worst offender is the Community Facilities District, or CFD. This is a financing tool used by developers. Instead of the developer paying to build the roads and sewers for a new subdivision, they take out a bond to pay for it. That bond is then attached to your house. You, the homeowner, are paying back the developer's loan through your property taxes for the next 20 years. It is essentially a second mortgage that you cannot pay off early, and that increases your tax burden by thousands of dollars a year. But because it is classified as a special assessment, or a district levy, politicians can truthfully say they did not raise the general property tax rate. They just created a new district to charge you for something that used to be included. These districts multiply like rabbits. Once established, they have their own governing boards and can often raise their levies with very little oversight. You might have 10 or 15 different entities taxing your property, each taking a small bite that adds up to a massive chunk of your income. Arizona is the number 2 state on our list because it has perfected the art of fragmenting your tax bill so you do not know who to blame. Before we reveal the number 1 state, let me remind you that knowledge is your only defense. If you want to learn how to appeal these assessments and find the loopholes that actually work, subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We are building a community of taxpayers who refuse to be victims. Number 1 is Florida, the state conducting a multi-front assault on homeowners. Florida takes the top spot because it isn't just using one of the methods we have discussed. It is using all of them simultaneously in a way that is causing a full-blown housing affordability crisis. Florida is hitting homeowners on 3 distinct fronts: the insurance-to-tax shift, assessment volatility, and a fee explosion. Let's start with the first front, the insurance-to-tax shift. You know about Florida's insurance crisis. Private carriers are fleeing the state and premiums are tripling. This has forced millions of homeowners onto Citizens, the state-run insurer of last resort. But here is the secret. Citizens is backed by the power to levy taxes. If a massive hurricane hits and Citizens runs out of money, they have the legal authority to levy a surcharge on every insurance policy and indirectly put pressure on state finances that trickles down to property taxes. The collapse of the private insurance market is becoming a public tax liability. The second front is assessment volatility. Florida has a law called Save Our Homes, which caps assessment increases at 3% for existing owners. This sounds great, but it creates a brutal trap for new buyers. When you buy a home in Florida, the taxable value uncaps and resets to the full market price. This means you could buy a house and pay $10,000 a year in taxes, while your neighbor, who has lived there for 20 years in an identical house, pays $2,000. You are subsidizing your neighbor. This welcome stranger tax means new residents are walking into a buzzsaw of taxation that is completely disconnected from the cost of services. The third front is the fee explosion. Just like Arizona and Nevada, Florida localities are addicted to non-ad valorem assessments. Fire rescue fees, solid waste assessments, stormwater fees. These are flat rates added to your bill that bypass the Save Our Homes cap. Even if your property value is capped, these fees can rise indefinitely. When you combine these 3 factors, Florida stands alone. You have a system where insurance failures create tax liabilities, where new buyers are penalized for market appreciation they didn't enjoy, and where fees are used to circumvent tax caps. It is a perfect storm. In unincorporated areas of Florida, where people move to avoid city taxes, the situation is even worse because the county layers on these special assessments to fund services that are spread over vast distances. The Florida dream of a cheap retirement in the sun is being eroded by a property tax reality that is anything but sunny. So, what can you do if you live in one of these 7 states? First, you must ignore the headline tax rate. It is irrelevant. Focus entirely on your assessed value. That is the number that matters. Second, open every single piece of mail from the county assessor. There is a very short window, sometimes only 30 days, to file an appeal. If you miss that window, you have agreed to the tax hike for another year. Third, look for special exemptions. Many states have hidden exemptions for veterans, widows, the disabled, or people over a certain age. They do not advertise these, you have to ask for them. And finally, if you are buying a home, never trust the current tax bill listed on Zillow. That is what the previous owner paid, likely protected by caps or exemptions that will vanish the moment you sign the deed. You need to calculate the tax based on the purchase price, not the history. The states are counting on you being passive. They are counting on you ignoring the fine print. At Tax Hack Pro, we believe in being active, informed, and aggressive about protecting our wealth. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit the like button so the algorithm warns more homeowners. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update, and leave a comment below telling us if your property taxes went up this year. We read every comment to see what is happening on the ground. Stay vigilant, watch your mailbox, and we will see you in the next video.